Under the Hood. I'm Brent Gray, here with Spencer Walters.
Hey Brent, how are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. We've got another fun episode, we'll call it, of what we call now Under the Hood, which is just more of a deep dive from an administrator perspective of what makes this side of the business tick. I think a lot of people are kind of maybe too guarded on wanting to show what's under the hood. And have people get that information.
We're lifting that hood up and we're letting people see what's the inner workings and how you came to be here. So one of the questions after our last episode, they're asking about a lot of different acronyms that are thrown around in this space. I believe there's DOWS and DOWC and all those other different things. Can you help us wade through that sea?
Yeah, it's going to be a very it's a very deep ocean, right? Because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I almost liken it to a first-year freshman going to college, and they've got their really impressive teacher who's using all these big words and multi-syllables, and I'm using 16 words to describe what one thing means. And I go out into the world and they're like, I just learned all these fancy new words, and I'm going to tell all my friends on what I learned in college. Mm-hmm. And the professor, those who can't do generally teach, right? So you get a professor maybe who's teaching about economics, who's never run a business, who's never owned a business, who's done anything but ever read theory on business.
Right.
So that person's wholly uneducated to teach these kids about business. And this is just an example. I'm just using this as
we won't go too deep into that.
Yeah. But that's what I see in the agent space is these agents will go to a class, or maybe the information is not appropriately disseminated down from the top. So
or they use catch onto some catchphrase and just
they'll just drive that cat. You need to be in a DOWC because it's the best tax, blah blah blah. Okay, sure. And who told you that? What is your experience? They're not a CPA. They're not an attorney. They're not the administrator. They don't know what the dealership's investment strategy is. But they throw out these catchphrases and they get people to try to adopt it. I go back to that college model because kids go to college and they learn everything and they're all excited. Like, this new economic model is great. Well, who taught it to you? My college professor. And what business has he or she run before? None of them.
Studied about them.
But he studied about them in this theory and practice. And so
it sounds cool.
That's what I think we get in the agent world. I'm not saying all the agents, because obviously we work with a lot of them who are very well educated. But they're getting that education generally through us. And they're getting that information, hopefully not in piecemeal, but in full context.
Right.
And I got to give some credit to some of the agents that we've worked with. I won't point them all out, but I'll get on a call with some of them. They're like, look, I'm your training development guy. I'm going to help you, grow your business at the store level. This is the expert on reinsurance. And that humble attitude towards education is really what helps them drive that relationship forward. And one of our agents in particular does it every time. He's just like, hey, look, I don't know this stuff, but here I'm going to bring you the people that are well educated on the topic. And I'm not saying I know everything.
Right.
Certainly I learn going to different conferences, meeting with our actuaries. As I mentioned before, we have 2 attorneys that are partners in the company. And I've got to go to them. Yeah. I don't know all the legal answers because the laws change. And every dealer is different. So, the acronyms get to be messy. So I would say when you have that first year college freshman come to you and are trudging through your doors and are saying, you need to be in this model for your, whatever, I would ask them why. Why? What makes you geared towards this particular opposed to the other options that are out there?
Well, and asking questions is always a great way to expand your knowledge. That's really like beyond college education or structured education. Asking those questions is going to be greater than
unless it's bad information.
That's true. And who are you asking the question to?
Exactly. And a lot of times, there's a lot of big companies out there, and they've got their entry-level specialist who doesn't really know a whole lot, and they're trying to disseminate the information. They're trying to find this really shiny hook. I've got this DOWC. It's so great. It's all the wonderful things. And they're getting all excited about it, like, Tommy Boy, and they just destroy the sale because by the time they sit down, the dealer's like, this isn't what I want.
Yeah. This isn't what we talked about.
This is exactly the opposite of what I want to do.
Right.
So I would just be wary of that. And it's great to ask questions. There's a biblical saying that iron sharpens iron, but what if that iron's corrupted? Correct. If you're sharpening that iron against another rusty blade, that bad information is to be transferred to your knowledge base, and it's not something that you want to absorb. So I would ask to go to the leadership of those companies. A lot of great companies out there. I hope for us to always be considered to be among those. Mm-hmm. But for those other companies, their leadership is the one who are going to understand your unique position. I would not take the information of a singular person. If they're not bringing in somebody else ahead of them, it's probably because they don't have the correct, appropriate information. So I always ask questions, but ask questions to leadership who's going to have that information.
Right, and I like what you said there. Don't just take one person's word for it, but do a triangulation. Similar to a GPS, ask multiple different people, but then make sure that those people are qualified to give those answers, right?
Yeah, and very poignant questions, and you might not know all the answers. There's been administrators out in the marketplace. I won't name them because I don't want to get attacked at the next Vegas summit, but they had claims adjudication fees, and that was buried in their dealer agreements. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. Like, who's paying your premium tax? What's your admin fee per contract? What's involved in this retro? What are the different terms and conditions of it? So all of that stuff has to be disseminated. And if they're not willing to be transparent, or if they just push paperwork in front of you, it's generally because it's better for the agent or the administrator in those scenarios. The way that we operate, and I'm not saying that we've found the best or we are the best, we're perfect, but
we're getting there.
I would hope that someday we could say that we are the best. Mm-hmm. As of right now, the way that we are currently operating is we have a flat admin fee.
Right.
Here's what it is. There's no claims adjudication fee. There's no loss adjustment fee. It's just, here's what it is. Black and white. It's on paper. It's easy to disseminate the difference. Mm-hmm. It includes, here's your premium tax. It includes that amount. Here's your admin fee. If they want us to break it down in other ways, certainly you can. But what I don't like is generally accountants or salespeople are going to find ways to confuse the information so that you think you're getting a better deal than you actually are. Right. So that's how we operate. And getting back to, originally we're talking about, got a little off topic, but the acronyms are, DOWC, NCFC, CFC, they all mean absolutely nothing. And I have a partner of ours who is an attorney in this space, and he's like, none of this means anything. It's profit sharing. That's all that you want to know. What methodology that you get to that engine that's serving, that's pulling that mm-hmm. behind it, or giving you that profit sharing component of it, that's all that matters. If we boil it down to the most basic tenets, what the dealership wants to do is all the reserves that are being held, to pay future claims, I want a portion of that.
Right.
That's all that we're talking about is profit sharing.
Right.
So there's many different ways to get that. We could say, okay, great, you can have 100% of whatever that we don't spend on claims. And that's generally your reinsurance position. Right. So you're going to take whatever it is that you have in totality, mm-hmm. For total dollars spent, and whatever's left over is what the dealer is getting. That's their profit sharing. Mm-hmm. And they can keep that money, and they can invest it. And there are some tax benefits to that, and there's a ton of different methodologies. None of them are going to be perfect until you understand the dealer's business model.
Oh, okay. Right? So adapting it to what they are rather than just trying to put a square peg into a round hole.
Perfect example. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think a lot of people do is square peg, round hole. Let me just sell you on this, forcefully sell you on why this is the best thing ever. And I'm going to make you love this program.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
No.
So, until you understand, is this generational money? Are you creating this reinsurance portfolio because you just want to invest it and give it to your grandkids, or maybe to your kids, or maybe this is what you plan on living off of after you retire? Because as a business owner, there's no 401k match program for us.
Uh-huh.
It's just we're going to work as hard as we can, and hopefully our business provides us into retirement. So I think that's the perspective of a lot of dealer principals and other businesses that sell our contracts and like that. But until you understand their business model, you cannot tell them this is the best model for them. And until you get a review from a CPA, and it's, you have a review from an attorney that says, yep, this is legal, ethical to do, because there's a lot of different programs out there that are not IRS approved.
Right.
And, the last thing you want to do is get into a situation where now you're having to backpedal. I didn't know this, or, and I had a funny conversation, sidebar.
Okay, let's hear it.
But was talking to an investment advisor this morning,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, you know what? I was talking to a dealer. He's the investment advisor, so his money is kept at, I won't name the lending institute, the bank, but he's like, for all the work that goes into managing a reinsurance position, this dealer's like, this has been the biggest pain in my rear. He's like, it wasn't even worth it. My loss ratios are high. He's like, this position, I'm going to have to put more money into it or sell out of it to make it profitable. So I'm having to put more money, good money, against bad money. And unless you have somebody that's dedicated to managing that book of reinsurance, that pool, that book of business, it's irrelevant.
Right.
If you have an agent who's, maybe it's one person and they're not well versed on this, I hate to say it, but we're all self-interested individuals, right? That person's going to be more invested in finding the next dealer group, the next opportunity, the next customer. They don't have that retention. They're happy with the commissions they're making, generally. But if you get an ill-educated agent and they're signing you up for this program, selling you on this next magical tool that's going to help you right off into the sunset on a yacht,
nice.
And they're not well educated on it, it might be more frustration for you. A lot of people say is, create this reinsurance company. What they don't tell them is, if you have to file bankruptcy in that reinsurance company and do it appropriately so it doesn't affect you financially, it's $30,000.
Right.
And
so then the yacht starts to look more like just a normal ski boat. Yeah. And then when you get to it, it's more of a rowboat.
Yeah. And the clip, provided the contractual liability insurance policy, they're clipping your reinsurance company. So I'm just the administrator. I've got nothing to do with it except for my fiduciary responsibilities to make sure that I've appropriately reserved for your losses and manage your portfolio, which we do. We do it very, very well. A lot of times you're just one number amongst many. So you have one person managing that portfolio. And if they're not doing that regularly, it's maybe set it and forget it, where over time that becomes a hole to throw money into. Right. And that's generally want money, energy, effort into forming the reinsurance company, spending that time watching the losses is like, it's not really worth it. Right. So for the agents out there that are pushing and pressing to have a reinsurance position for their dealer, and they're selling 20 service contracts a month, what are you doing? Yeah. Why are you doing it? Yeah. One shock loss, one large claim wipes out your entire portfolio. And then I'm coming to them saying, hey, you know what? I need some extra money from you. Well, this is my reinsurance company. Right. I get that. It's ill-funded. You have to make a capital injection into the company now, and it's called a capital call, but now we have to pull some money from you. There's the black hole right there. That's tossing money into the fire, and not even the fire, because it's not really giving you heat. It's just the black hole, like you said. It is. There's no benefit to it. And I get a little bit animated about this because I think that there are agents out there that are trying to sell something so hard with such a small amount of knowledge, as far as under the hood, as far as their capacity, they do a disservice. And we work with a lot of great agents that do the exact opposite of that. Right. And I think if you have an administrator who's more interested in how many accounts can you sign for me, rather than how can I partner with you and help your business grow, that's what you're going to end up with. Right. Like, oh yeah, great, sign up all this stuff, we'll handle it. We're gonna help you out. But then that help never arrives, and now you're losing the account 5 years down the road because the money has been mismanaged. And if your rates haven't changed, and everybody doesn't like rate changes. Right. We covered that last time. Yeah, nobody likes rate changes. Yeah. If your rates aren't changing, it's because your administrator is not watching your losses. Like if your rates aren't going up during COVID, parts pricing went way up. We had inflation, hyperinflation. People were overpaying for parts because they weren't even available. So if your rates weren't changing during that time frame by a significant margin, then your reinsurance position was tanking. There's too many dealers that I talk to right now that are like, how are you? Are you happy? Well, I really like my rep, but my reinsurance company, I lost $500,000. Or whatever the number is. And like, well, why are you still using that person? Yeah, after a $500,000 loss, I would. Yeah, I'd be pretty upset, right? It'd be time to move on. Somebody should. And when you're really involved in that business, it's really easy for you to make those small incremental surgical changes. Adjustments. We talked about this like last week was, looking at each individual make, model, and like, okay, well, we know that the loss ratios on, GMC trucks, transmissions, Silverado tend to be very high. So we try to educate our dealer partners, hey, you're buying a car at auction, make sure you check out the trans fluid, make sure it's not burnt up. That will save you a headache in the future. But more than that, what we can do, because we can't control their business, we're not trying to control anybody's business, but we do need to reserve additional funds, because once the losses spike, once you've already seen it on paper, you've already sold, 30 of those contracts, 50, 100 of those contracts.
Right.
You have to make immediate changes. So I would ask the company that you're prospectively doing business with, when's the last time that they had an actuarial review?
That's a good question.
Like we have one quarterly. We have one quarterly because we want to know what the trends are. And it costs a little bit of money, but it's worth its time to know what's happening with each one of these makes, models, and these brands.
Goes back to what you're saying. Rather than just selling, you're creating a partnership.
Yeah.
You're helping to work together. And I think that's a huge takeaway right here, not only for agents, but also for dealers to look for creating those partnerships rather than just selling products, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I guess just kind of wrapping up this portion of the segment is just to let the dealer, the agent know that, your partner should be exceptionally invested in the success of your dealer's reinsurance portfolio, or whatever formation it is, DOWC, NCFC, CFC, all these different acronyms. All it means is profit sharing. And if you're not taking the time to sit down with your dealership and understand their business, you're doing a great disservice to your relationship with them down the road. You need to sit down and understand, is this generational money? Do I need this money to buy my next building, to buy my next dealership,
and whatnot.
Whatever that it is? If you don't understand that, they're not going to be happy with the results.
Right.
And ultimately, a little bit of time and investment and education will help you understand how to retain that business long term. So,
well, thank you. I think that's another golden nugget that we've just had from Spencer, and we'll continue to get them as much as we can.
Yeah, this is information we want to share.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that maybe hasn't been shared in the past, but I think for us as an administrator, education is key. If we can have, our partners, whether it be a future partner or an existing partner, understand our business as much as we understand it, it's only going to create a stronger relationship, because they're going to know how hard that we work to create value for them, and in return, they're going to be happy to allow us to make some profit.
Right, and it's not just on one end, but we want to take the whole enchilada and help on all aspects of it.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.